Good evening and welcome to the Monday, February 10th RDC Commission meeting for the Redevelopment Commission, excuse me. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next item on the agenda is roll call. Please let the record show that all are in attendance. The next item is the approval of meeting minutes from January. Have all the commissioners received a copy of the minutes? I will hear a motion to...
I move we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. On to the next agenda item, old business, and this is where we have the Heart of Lebanon request for funding, a follow-up from last month, and I believe we have Missy and Missy to present. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here before you again tonight to request funding in the amount of $35,000 for the Heart of Lebanon for our 2020 events and promotions. In 2019, the RDC funded the Heart of Lebanon in the amount of $20,000 for events and promotions and $5,000 to continue our Embrace the Orange initiative. I was asked to provide a breakdown of how the $25,000 was spent, so it was spent in the following ways. Oktoberfest, $3,100. Mischief on Meridian, $7,700. Christmas on the Square, $3,800. City Market, $2,900. Christmas in July, $2,500. And Embrace the Orange, $5,000. The events in 2019, which included Mischief on Meridian and Christmas on the Square, were our biggest attended events to date. I want to thank the RDC for continuing to make these free and or low-cost community events possible. The increase in funds request this year is a result of our desire to double the amount of quality of life events downtown. This weekend, we were able to host one of those events for our community. It was the Downtown Lebanon Valentine Cookie Walk, which ran from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. this past Saturday. The participants, who comprised of 75 families and groups from our community, came to our office, picked up a box for their cookies, a map to the downtown businesses where the cookies could be located, and a punch card. They set off, they collected one cookie from each business, and got their card punched. After they collected all their cookies, which was 11 in total, they returned to the Heart of Lebanon office and turned in their punch card for a chance to win a prize from the downtown businesses. When they arrived back to our office, we heard things like, "That was so much fun. We went to businesses we didn't even know existed." We heard, "Thank you so much. This was so much fun for our family. We loved it." From many of the businesses, we heard that the participants returned to shop and eat after they completed the event. There was recently a Facebook poll on one of the local social media pages that asked the members if they wanted more events downtown. Overwhelming majority said yes, that they wanted more events downtown. This points to Lebanon's desire to engage in community in our beautiful downtown landscape that you commissioners helped to create. We have had the privilege to talk to Indiana Main Street and National Main Street organizations. According to the National Main Street Organization, 30 to 50% of our funding for Main Street organizations, which the Heart of Lebanon is, should come from public funding. According to the 2018 trends for Main Street organizations put together by Main Street America, shows that these Main Street organizations, on average, receive 44% of their budget through public funding. This study also indicates that 93% of the Main Street organizations who completed the survey employ staff. We've also been very busy the last month updating our website, creating a new sponsorship packet, fostering better communication with our downtown businesses, and planning ahead for our 2020 events and promotions. I can say that I'm excited for 2020 in the downtown. I'm excited for the re-engagement that we've already seen from the businesses and from the community. I'm excited for the new businesses and the potential new developments that continue to say that our downtown is one of the reasons they chose to be located in Lebanon. Thank you for listening to the Heart of Lebanon's request, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions?
So, Missy, your request is for $35,000?
$35,000.
Correct. I guess my comment is that I've been kind of really thinking about this issue since the last meeting, and I want something to happen downtown. Okay, first of all, I want to get that out. We did all this work downtown. We've created a downtown. I want to see events downtown. Okay, but my concern is this the group? Should the Redevelopment Commission be funding that involvement downtown as opposed to that? I kind of look at maybe the city getting involved somewhere and helping out somewhere. I don't know that we've ever been asked or requested from. Maybe we have, and I don't remember what happened. But I'm just kind of concerned about, is this the group where this funding should come from? And like I say, I want stuff to happen downtown. But I'm just not sure that, and being we've got, we used the Heart of Lebanon to embrace the orange. We really don't have any downtown projects now to really embrace the orange. I think we've had enough of that, at least in the downtown area. The places where the orange is going to be in the future is not going to be in the downtown. And so I'm not sure if that's where the funding should go. And and I've been trying to look at it both ways, like here or the city side, and I look at Joe and what Joe does for the city, and I'm trying to figure out how much different is some of the things that Joe does to some of the things that Heart of Lebanon does. Could they all be one thing? And if that is the case, then maybe that's the place for the city to be in a leadership role in helping to support involvement downtown in that way, and the Redevelopment Commission working to support business creation and our facade grants and things like that. And that's just my thoughts. You know, I don't want to ramble on, but I've really been concerned because I've been thinking about it for a month. So,
Sure.
Okay.
I too have been going back and forth on this, and I did a little bit of research on Main Street America myself and found a lot of documentation and talked to other outside sources as well. And my question to you, Missy, is this, since the RDC is TIF generated funds, and granted the downtown is TIF, our biggest TIF is the business park. What's being done to attract that large population out there? How is the Heart of Lebanon proposing to draw those people to our events? I mean, that's one of their attractions, is why they come to Lebanon.
Right.
What do they really know about the events happening? I know we have social media, and it's kind of hit or miss with some people that work out there. But how are we working on the communication improvements, not only with the downtown squares, but businesses, but also the business
Right.
park?
I've had several conversations regarding that, and I've had an invitation to sit down with the businesses in the business park and engage them in the downtown, whether it be through volunteers, whether it be promotion, just to invite their employees to come to the events, to just really foster that engagement of those downtown businesses. So that's something now, as the executive director, I'm able to do and plan on doing for the business park.
Go ahead, Corey.
Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, Caleb. I likewise, I think as all members of the commission have kind of gone back and forth on this, this has been something we've done for a number of years. I am an advocate of promoting our downtown. I have seen so much positive that has transpired over the last several years. Some a little slower than we liked, and others a little quicker than we liked, but it's been good. I've also been frustrated with some of the issues downtown in business retention, number of retail versus service providers. In my reflection, I feel that I went back and looked at the tax increment financing, which is TIF, is to be used as a subsidy for redevelopment, infrastructure, and other community improvements. So I feel that the request falls within the TIF. So I don't have an issue with that. I think what I would prefer to see, I believe that the Heart of Lebanon has been put together with passion and commitment, but selective commitment. And it's lacked the leadership that I think I would like to see in place on a sustained basis. I don't think you can say, let's fund this year to year to year. I think we need to, if we're going to fund something, we need to fund it so that we can see some outcome. And that's not an indefinite, but I also believe that we have the financial capacity to fund. Having said that, I do struggle with funding certain activities. I think there needs to be some skin in the game from those folks around the square, as well as possibly from our city. But I think it's well within the responsibility and the authority of this commission to fund leadership in that position. So I've really kind of settled on advocating for the funding of the executive director's position, advocating for having that funding go beyond just 1 year, and then continuing as a commission to review, not just annually when it's coming back asking for money, but maybe quarterly or biannually, what's happening, what's going on. And so having come to those kind of conclusions, and like Dick, I've thought about this, because in many ways I see a lot of progress in our community. Whether you're driving down the interstate, and I hear from work colleagues, and I've actually heard from legislators that know I'm from Lebanon, compliments about what we've done on the gateways. When a representative tells you he likes the new John Deere going up, you kind of know where he's coming from, but at least he's looking at what we're doing, and he also compliments the other. As a community member, I like to see what's happening a mile off of our gateways. So having said all of that, I am, and I don't know if we're at a point, and I know there's more discussion with fellow commissioners, I would like to see this commission fund for a year, for at least 2 years, an executive position, and allow that executive director to work her or his magic. This is not a funding for an individual, it's a funding for a position, and allow this commission to see if there's a return on investment that we feel is worthy of our continued support. So that dollar amount, I think initially it was $25,000 salary, which is not a whole lot of money, but it's a place to start, and I think there was some operating costs that went within that, office space, materials, those kind of things. I would be more comfortable in funding with that intent than I would at this time saying we're just funding for activities. Then I think maybe Mr. Messenger has to come to us and say he needs funding because there's lots of activities in the park. And I think we see more of our well-attended activities, whether it's the Mel Kenyon or whether it's the barbecue or whether it's the challenge, teen and adult challenge that goes on. Those are all great things in our community. But that's my position at this point. Sorry I went long-winded, but I do believe that we should strongly consider funding some type of consistent leadership for the Heart of Lebanon organization and allow that leadership then to seek the level of success that they have and the ability that they have to be self-funded or partially self-funded and successful.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Corey, did you want to add to that, or?
I can add a little bit. I agree with Dr. Taylor. I appreciate your comments, and I think in addition to the executive position, part of this proposal is to also increase the activities, which is another reason why I support the request as well. I think one of the issues we deal with the type of work Heart of Lebanon does is it's difficult to see the actual return on investment. I guess there's that old saying in business, I know half of my advertising money is wasted, I just don't know which half. You don't always get to see firsthand, and I guess I'm the one sitting up here with that's newest in the city, and from a personal experience, when our family was considering moving to Lebanon, and we did our research, and we were out on the websites, and we were visiting all of the activities, we saw pictures of downtown. We saw all the signs on all the businesses. We visited those businesses before interviewing and ultimately moving to Lebanon. So I think that the folks that are working in those neighborhood or outside new warehouse districts and industrial park, if we're going to attract those folks to not just work here but live here, we need to have these type of activities that we provide for our families and show that we are a livable community and welcoming. Our son's in college, so many of the activities that we saw with the little kids, he wasn't going to participate in, but it showed that that's the type of community that's growing and is welcoming and is doing the things that grow a strong community. So I applaud the work that's being done. I appreciate the extra information as well and putting it in context and really kind of solidified for me that this is a reasonable request when you're looking at the percentage of your overall budget, and as Dr. Taylor pointed out, also providing some executive leadership as well.
Quick question for you, Rob. Are we bound by ongoing expenses year to year? So if we were to consider a 2-year commitment, is that?
I mean, if there's a motion today to fund it for 2 years, are we going to? I think you can do it. I think it's also important. There are additional monies that come in to the Redevelopment Commission that are not TIF-based that would be appropriate for that. I mean, we've talked a little bit before in the past about appropriate uses of TIF dollars. We've also talked about operational expenses at the RDC is not one of those proper uses, but there's additional monies that come in through leases that the RDC maintains, and Baker Tilly, formerly Umball, has footnoted that in our financials. So they're, yeah, I think that would be okay to do.
Thank you, Rob. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners for Missy?
I just want to thank Missy for putting this information together.
Yes.
I asked her to put this information together and get it to us so we'd have something to really look at and see what the numbers we approved in the past, where it all went and what it went to. So I appreciate you doing that. And all the other information that you shared with us, I appreciate that as well.
Okay, commissioners, I will entertain a motion if we want to move to that point.
Dr. Taylor?
So after my motion, we need to have discussion.
Sure.
Okay. So I move that we approve $30,000 annually for 2 years for the Heart of Lebanon to be then reported on a minimum of biannually, and that we revisit within the end of this 2-year period for an additional review of funding or increase or decrease.
Discussion?
Quick question for you, Missy. So, I believe Dr. Taylor alluded to this, but the executive director position was 25. Then I believe operating costs were nearing 10. Is that correct?
Yes.
Between,
If you're looking at, are you looking at office space or?
because you had talked about operating
Yeah.
costs.
Thank you, Corey. Yeah, last time, I thought, Missy, we looked at, there was office rental, there was different materials, there was some promotional activities. I thought it came to around 8 to 10,000 total. You initially asked for 35. My recommendation of 30 would help cover part of those office expenses. I would still, two justifications. One, I would kind of feel that I'm answering my fiduciary responsibility to watch the TIF dollars and respond to community. I have gotten pros and cons on this, but the other, I think, is that it would also then be an incentive for the members that comprise the Heart of Lebanon to step up either with in-kind service, possibly either that's operating or rental space, or a greater contribution, a financial contribution. That was where I came up with the 30. There's no science to that, Corey. It was just kind of we'd asked for 35, and yet we wanted to have some of that. Yeah.
I think as I remember from the last meeting, didn't you have a balance in your fund of about 56,000 or something like that?
As of the last meeting, yeah, we've,
That's what I came up with. I mean, it was no.
I pulled up the previous meetings data that Missy provided, and between office and the executive position, it well exceeds 35 grand.
Yeah, it's about 17,000 is what I just came up with on the operation costs. I personally love to see, I mean, if we can kind of split that, you take that 17,000, split it in half, that's 8,500. So I think 35,000 would be a reasonable number from funding the executive director and operating costs. The other thing I would like to point out is, as Missy said earlier, that I think we've kind of glossed over a little bit. When you look at where the funding went in prior years, specific events were avoided in that. So if there were revenue-generating events, funds from the RDC were not used. As I recall it, there is one revenue-generating event, and that one specifically, I think there were some issues with RDC potentially funding. So I think this is kind of that happy medium of funding the director, the operations, without funding specific activities that may come in question. So I personally would love to see the 2 years with that 35.
And again, not going to fall on my sword for this, but I think we get into that specific level of funding at this level. What I don't think we want is to put them through an audit that could cost who knows how much, and that could be something that maybe is presented. While certainly everyone agrees to a handshake deal and everyone's honest and upfront, when you get down to that consideration of where were the dollars spent, I would hate to see that we require some kind of audit of the Heart of Lebanon. I personally would like to take them at their face value, but if we're pushed for that, we have no fallback to say, yeah, we know that these dollars were spent here.
Right.
But again, I will support the will of the commission on this, whatever we do.
When I spoke with Missy, I asked her to be a little more specific on what was spent for, what was it spent for each event, you know? Did we buy the stage? Did we pay for stage rental? Did we pay for, so she has a kind of like a breakdown, and she said this coming year, they've got better ways to do that now, that they would understand, you know, they could really give us a breakdown of what each item went to for that event. You know, like, to me, I think we're better off to pay for the specific item than, you know, if they're gonna rent 10 restrooms for $2,500, you know, we've got 10 restrooms for $2,500, you know, that type of thing, then, you know,
It's only extravagant until you need one, Dick, and then, then it's not a big issue. So, Corey, we're down to a fine point, but
Right.
again, I feel some responsibility being part of this commission that we do have some accountability both to the citizens and both to our business people. So I would like to ensure that there's some sustainability of our funding. So I would feel better at the end of it, whether I'm sitting out there or sitting up here, at the end of that time, I would feel better knowing that we've had an opportunity to let leadership move the process forward and see a better return on investment than I personally feel we're getting right now.
Yeah.
Melissa also said that you were going to be trying to raise some funding for this year to help with
Yep.
events.
Yeah.
So-
And I will tell you too, so one of the questions that came up was how do we really impact the entire TIF area, correct? So we're the RDC, we're not only responsible for the heart of Lebanon, but we also represent the bigger good. And as I recall it, just a couple of examples. So 2 to 3 years ago, Case New Holland, located out in the business park, actually approached about doing the farmers markets on their property to give their employees direct access to it. So the level of engagement is substantially higher than, I think, the 100,000-foot overview that we get here at the table. But, we heard last time at the meeting too from the EDC how important placemaking and those items are to bringing in not only the large businesses, but keeping them here. Eli Lilly announced that they're building down in North Carolina. One of their number one reasons was placemaking and quality of life. So I think we as a commission have a pretty strong case for delivering on quality of life and assisting our overall constituent.
And I would agree, I would be able to defend and have no issue with the dollars that are spent under the title of community improvement, which is authorized as TIF. I think this is a community improvement. If you ask how does it improve the business district, as Dr. Milliman pointed out, as he was looking to come to our community, we're fortunate to have he and his family here. He looked at not only residential housing availability, I'm sure, but as he stated, he looked to see what quality of life was here.
Yep.
That's not the exception. I think today that's more and more the example. So I don't have an issue. Where I'm kind of wrestling is the skin in the game thing. And so what are we have some folks that have been on the square for a long time, some that have come and gone. And so I'm kind of would like to see some come and stay. That's why I'm so passionate about the leadership component of this activity, because I think that position can help cultivate an attitude of wanting to stay. Even there's going to be good times and bad times. I think, was it our Halloween event that got rained out? Well, was it one event, something got rained out this year or whatever?
Yeah, we moved it to the next day.
That's somebody way above this group is deciding what the weather is. We're going to do the best we can. So I'm not worried about that. So again, I appreciate the commission allowing me to speak. I know Dick and I had a conversation. This is, Wade, probably one of the most significant decisions that I've made in my number of years, because I think the downtown area has just exceeded my expectations as a 24-year community member here. And I appreciate that greatly. Used to be, you'd say, well, if they could just not look until we got to the park, and then Lebanon's a great place. Well, now open your eyes and see what's on our square, and then see what's at the park. So I'm done. Caleb, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Any other comments from the commissioners? Do we have a second to Dr. Taylor's motion for 30 grand for 2 years with milestone checkups, is what I'll call them?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Dr. Taylor made the motion. Dick made the second.
Thank you.
Let's go down the line.
It's defeated.
Okay.
I got,
Can we make a second motion to change it if
we need to
finish
vote
the
on
vote?
this one.
Okay. Okay. So let's go down the line. Corey?
No.
Dr. Millman? I vote no.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. The motion fails. With that given motion failed, Any further comments from the commissioners before we,
I would actually like to move, we approve 35,000 for the 2 years, which would comprise the same coverage, just the extra 5,000 in there.
there's a motion for $35,000 for 2 years with milestone checkups.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Dick said no. Okay, the motion passes. Congratulations, Missy
Thank
and
you.
Heart of Lebanon. You have 2 years of funding.
All right,
Missy,
yes.
I would make a suggestion that you try to come before the council and talk to the council,
Okay,
and maybe I can get something set up, maybe talk to
Come during
Beverage
budget
Committee or
sessions.
something like that. Maybe we can try to do something from there.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you so much.
I just think the city needs to be involved.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is new business, and there is not any. I do have a brief comment. Previously, last year, past Commissioner Sierra and I were working with Derek at the Plan Commission, the Historic Preservation, on revisiting the grant program structure, and I have shared that with the commissioners for further review as a draft, and we will be happy to discuss it at the next meeting on the agenda item. Give the commissioners a chance to review it. So, the next item on the agenda are claims. Have all the commissioners received a copy of the claims? Do I hear a motion to accept the claims as presented?
So moved.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And the final item, does the commissioners have anything else before we close the meeting?
No, sir.
All right, the final
Motion
item.
we adjourn.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is closed. Our next meeting will be in March. I don't have a date in front of me, but it's usually the second Monday. Thank you.
Don't anybody leave down there.
I need to have claims signed.
Claims.